Howdy! It has been a long time since I've done a video like this on the Rogue Market channel. I do videos like this quite often on the Gun Rogue Game channel because that is the channel that I talk more about shop. There's Zach! Hey, get back here, Zach! He's trying to creep out of the video. I thought I would just show kind of the back area of the shop, show what we are involved in on the behind the scenes. I think most stores this day and age need to run some sort of presence with the secondary market beyond just their local economy. And so what I do, of course, as I've stated many times, is I run a Patreon where I allow people to buy products, patrons to buy products at distributor price if you cover all of like the fees and the shipping and whatnot. So this is a lot of build up from deals I've snagged. This is kind of my overstock of stuff that I eventually need to go through and figure out what needs to be sent off, what needs to be kind of sold. I've been waiting on this sort of product. This is the horrible era of Pokemon where they overprinted everything. I wish, see if I can show you back here. It's such a mess because I have a big project that's what I'm going to talk about today. I've been breaking down some Pokemon products. So these are all recent Pokemon. You can see those two big piles. Those are all Brilliant Stars and Fusion Strike. So I've noticed that even recent, like if you actually break this Cyclizar box, I've been breaking a bunch of these open because these are just so terrible to ship. You might as well just break them open for the packs. There's Fusion Strike and Brilliant Stars in this, as well as this Mimikyu EX. And so I have a theory about that. I think the Brilliant Stars and Fusion Strike, why they keep getting included in these supplemental products is not because they're printing more of it. It's they must have excess booster packs somewhere. When they package these together, I think they take from a supply of what they have. That's why you can find a lot of older booster boxes occasionally in some of these products because they don't state to be the same. Recently, most of these have been the same. I know that one of my distributors got in a lot of trouble with some of their customers because they claimed there was 2 Evolving Skies packs in some of these tins they were opening because the ones they opened had them, and then when everyone lost their minds and bought them because it was like 20 bucks for a tin and you get 2 Evolving Skies, you make your money back right there, or close to, then there was none in there and ended up being kind of a bad taste in people's mouth. Some of these pictures too I think have been inaccurate on these what they actually show are in the boxes. But anyway, I've just noticed there's a lot of Brilliant Stars and a lot of Fusion Strike. So enough to Pokemon talk, though. This is kind of the operation I got going. You can see my excess stupid aftermath cancellations from people that didn't want to pay for their booster boxes. That's kind of the problem of, running a store. You do get people that, that jump ship last minute and there's nothing to do about it. Kind of get stuck with excess product. But anyway, a lot of juicy stuff here. Thought I'd show my mess going on with my overstock. So what I want to talk about today is you can go for some of a bigger rant over at my Gun Rogue Games channel about this. This is a particular order for patrons. This has been absolutely popular with the amount I've sold for these commander decks. So Wizards of the Coast announced a tournament, but they half-assed it because that's what Wizards of the Coast does with everything they do. Is I think that local game stores are now the new way that Wizards of the Coast is liquidating products. And they have been trying this through a series of doing these throwback tournaments. And so one they did months ago was the Kamigawa Draft, where they had some cheaper Kamigawa Draft boosters and expected stores to run a flashback draft, but they didn't provide any promos or any materials or anything to really get the player base excited. They just expected the local game stores to take that burden and run it. And the thing what I've been arguing with a lot of people online is I could do this at any time with any blowout product. Why don't you Wizards of the Coast to throw up a link somewhere on some WPN page, not even give it access to their main page about this throwback tournament, and expect me to kind of do their bidding for them to get rid of their excess product. Whoa, my camera does not want to focus here. But anyway, so this is the latest. They did one with Infinity a few months back on April 1st to try to push out some Infinity product that had been rotten on the shelves. And now they're doing this with basically every commander deck. And what they wanted the stores to do is run a throwback commander where you just pick up one of these commander decks from, what's this one here? This one is going to be Baldur's Gate and play it. So you're supposed to play it sealed against other people. And what I find kind of stupid about this is most commander players, I don't know if this is how it is in your area, but most commander players have already picked these up. They've already built commander decks, the ones they wanted. These have already been blown out previously, so it's not like the first time these have been cheap. These have been cheap multiple times through other distribution outlets and, you know, summer sales, spring sales, winter sales, whatever. And this isn't the best discount ever for this product. So it's kind of like, to me, it's just kind of a backhanded slap of Wizards of the Coast, where it's like, hey, we're supporting you, but at the same time, it's like, well, what we're really doing is looking out for ourselves and hoping our local game stores can be this outlet for us to move product. But anyway, it's been pretty popular with my patrons, so this is one of the things that I do at the shop too, is I then take this massive, so it's a lot of work. You can see I'm a lot less consistent like I've been on YouTube, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I do miss communicating with everyone on YouTube, but at the same time, it's like, this is a lot of work for me to then unpackage this stuff. It usually takes the majority of the day to correspond with patrons, to update, you know, Patreon and talk with people, make sure all the orders are correct, make sure address is okay, ship everything out. And it does become like a full-time job at that point. So it has given me less time to do like this snazzy videos and editing and stuff. But I do want to get back into talking about the market, because these sort of things are kind of neat with these commander decks, because most of them are profitable at this rate. I believe you can get commander decks sets for 105. So it puts these down to so a little under 25, around $25 for, or are they 5? No, there's usually 4 in these. About $25 per commander deck, and typically you can make your money back on some of the singles. There have been some ones that have some standout cards in them, like, or $20 cards alone. But the main thing with these commander decks, though, is it's a lot of bulk these days, because Wizards of the Coast continues to print the same stuff in every commander deck. But again, at this price point, I'm not sure how I feel about commander decks going forward, because they always, typically speaking, like going back to like the original commander decks when they released, what was it, 2016, 2015? When were the first ones? Commander 1. There was Commander 2, I think, was the big one that had the overprinting, and it took a while for the distribution line to get rid of everything. And then those prices stayed stagnant for quite some time for those original commander decks. But then they did. There seems to be a big discrepancy long term with like the contents not being worth it, but the actual decks sealed still selling for decent price, because people do continue to buy them later on, because like a new player gets into Magic, oh man, I want a rogue deck from Zendikar Rising, I'll buy that rogue commander deck, or I want this Midnight Hunt vampire deck, or what do they have in Midnight Hunt? Werewolves, I think is what they had in there. I've never built one. I'll build it sealed rather than trying to pick up the pieces, you know, just as a good starting point for the deck. So I am quite bullish on that prospect of the commander decks. But as you can see, there are a lot to store sealed. They're terrible to ship. So all of this, so these are 50-pound boxes of, and I'll show you like the aftermath of this after I'm done with it. So this is going to be, you know, hundreds of boxes, a little over 100 commander decks. And this particular patron doesn't want them shipped like this, so he's going to pay me to break them down into a more stomachable, because I think he's just going to sell them as singles. And so these are going to be broken down and turned into just, you know, the contents of the commander deck, which at that point is actually quite small. And so these can actually ship for more. However, the majority of people, if you are like an online sayer, this is just a dead prospect to try to ship these. So all of your profit margin is going to be killed by this, because these aren't going to ship the best flat, especially if you want to put in another box. You know, you're looking at, depending on where you're at in the United States, this is going to be between $10 minimum, I would say, all the way up to like $20, because it might not, you know, fit that flat rate of what you know, USPS does. So there's a massive chunk of the margins right there in the shipping. And so breaking these down and selling in singles could be a good plan to go if the arbitrage is always there, if there is, you know, a way for the contents to actually add up to or surpass what's the price of buying it sealed. So historically speaking, though, most of them don't. And if you actually look at some of the big stinkers, I think Midnight Hunt's the worst one right now. It's like the Humans deck out of either Crimson Vow or Midnight Hunts is worth, like, the most expensive card in it is Soul Ring. So it's just a really, really, really damning time in Magic the Gathering that they have they have little equity left to start dipping into. And what we've noticed with Magic cards is there doesn't seem to be that sweet spot of having everything between $1 to, you know, $50 cards. You have this nice spread, you know, 10% of cards are $1, 10% or $2, all the way up to a good spread, you know, a regular bell curve spread the majority of cards, having some sort of value, not being too expensive and not being worthless. Now what we're seeing is we're seeing two extremes of the spectrum. It's cards that tend to miss reprints end up being quite expensive, and then cards that end up, being reprinted tend to be reprinted again because of them not being necessarily expensive, so they can oh, we can throw this as another rare in our commander decks and not go above that $50 equity that we're trying to, or $50 value that we're trying to put in a commander deck, so that people will feel like they've purchased something that is worth it. 100 cards is hard to get within $50 if you're including a bunch of $10. Like, Wizards of the Coast doesn't want a ton of value because they know that if they put a ton of value in the commander decks, first of all, they're unnecessarily dipping into their kind of equity, their reprint equity. And second of all, that a lot of those purchases will just be then broken down. So it won't get into the consumer's hands. People just buy them and then break them down. And so they've always had this fine line of trying to find enough to put in stuff to justify the purchase, but not enough to where, it's just going to, which I think is kind of a weird way of them going about it, because a lot of other games don't care. Like Pokemon, for example, they don't really look at the secondary market when they do these other products, like Lucario V-Star. They just thought this would be a cool product. It wasn't worth anything before it was reprinted, and they've done stuff like with like crashing the price of Mew and whatnot that were expensive cards, putting way more value in the boxes, and then of course they come down to nothing. But again, that's a different philosophy for different games. But I do think it is, if you are a card game company, there is a fine line between reprinting stuff in the supplemental products to where they kill the future equity of these cards, and at least having enough where people feel like they have a decent amount of value in their purchase. So anyway, going back to this though, what we've seen though with these commander decks is they keep going after the same reprints. I like to say like Revel Arc and Sun Titan. Those are two cards that come to mind, or like even the amount of times Arcane Signet Soul Rings, they have no value anymore because they've just been printed so often. Or some of the land bases they choose, where shock lands are $20 a piece, but kind of the dual type lands out of Shadows Innistrad or Zendikar and stuff are worthless because they've been printed so much in Commander. So anyway, thought I'd talk some shop real quick back here, get a video out to the rogue market. If you like this type of content, let me know, and I'll try to upload more of this kind of behind the scenes. You can see it's kind of a disaster back here. I've got so many projects going on, figuring out different stuff. This is a video I was going to do, and then it passed up. They're actually fire selling these Midnight Hunt theme boosters. So here's the remnants right here of some of them. So they're fire selling these theme boosters for $20 for an entire case. I believe there's 12 packs in a case, and so it came to be like 85 cents a pack. And then I was seeing if just the play with fires and considers alone made it worth it, and actually got some pretty decent pulls out of all this stuff that I'll have to show sometime. But unfortunately that sale's gone, so by the time I was about ready to do the video, they'd already been purchased out, and I couldn't even order more. Right now you can get the Crimson Vow theme boosters for $20 for entire case of them, but Crimson Vow just has no money in the uncommons and common slot, so it's kind of weird going that route. So I hope you enjoyed my rambling though. I'll let this one go for a video for another day. Maybe this will be a way to post some videos every now and again, talk shop, keep interacting with everyone, as well as continue the operation going here kind of smoothly. So I want to get back to kind of the speculation, talking about good buys and whatnot for for upcoming commander decks and other stuff, rotations, things like that on the Rogue Market channel. Unfortunately, we're just in this weird time with Magic the Gathering, which is oversaturation, overprinting, and then shenanigans like this with Wizards. Like, when does the supply end of this crap? Like this is just so much product, because I haven't heard these things being terrible sales. And when they were first released, like, we sold a lot of commander decks when each set comes out. It just seems that Wizard of the Coast is just print, and they don't really care if they need to blow it out later, because they still make decent profit margins on the stuff they have to blow out, and the stuff that they don't have to blow out that does sell naturally, they seem to make extremely good profit margins on. But anyway, ramble. That's all I got for today. Everyone say hi to Buttons. He's bored. He wants a hike. But we will see you guys on the next video.